Welcome aboard the 4 to 7 pod with Chris and Jerry on the Ascension Podcast Network. The 2026 World Baseball Classic is over, and we are just about ready for the regular season to begin, with opening night on Wednesday, opening day on Thursday. So we are pretty much all the way back. The lights were once again too bright for Aaron Judge in the WBC elimination games. So those allegations continue to get louder. They're going to get louder until he does something to change it. I will say just a little bit of hopium or copium for me and my fellow Yankee fans out there is that since he had his October moment here in March, by the time October rolls around, he'll actually think it's May, so he'll actually hit in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on everyone else to disprove this theory more than it's on me to prove this theory. What that means for the regular season, I have no idea, but that's why we're here today.
I'll be interested to see what his reception is for the home opener on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that's in San Francisco.
Oh, you're right. I noticed because I saw it was going to start at 8:00, so just my brain immediately was like, oh, well, that must be in the Bronx. Of course, they would open there. It's the Netflix game. They would have it there. Why not? Good point.
Yeah, no, I think they're just doing. I think they're just doing. I mean, this whole Netflix thing is kind of annoying, but I think they're just doing that at 8:00, and I guess 5:00 game in California. But, yeah. Also, yeah, I mean, Yankees at Giants is kind of a weird. It's kind of a weird opening matchup.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it should be interesting. It'll be the Yankees, and you'll get to see the Tennessee. The Tennessee head coach start his major league managing career and see how that goes. Logan Webb versus Max Fried. So, it should be, it should at the very least be a good game.
Devers v. the Yankees.
Oh, God. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we might be screwed. We'll see if that inner hate that he has for the Yankees is still there. Although he won't get to face Cole. We're still a little bit of a ways away from Cole coming back. Although Cole did pitch in spring training last week. He had one 10-pitch inning, and he got out of it pretty scot-free. So I would say that's a success.
I gotta imagine, like, he just shows up to opening night. He forgets that Rafael Devers is now on the Giants. He just looks out.
And then just it's like the groundhog seeing a shadow. And it's just like 6 more weeks of he suffers a setback in his rehab, and 6 more weeks until he can throw again.
Disturbing scenes tonight as the Yankees leave San Francisco. Garrett Cole still has a 1,000-yard stare. No one can pinpoint the moment.
Yeah. But
also good news with the WBC. Nolan McLean off the hook. Yes.
Yeah.
McLean on the Mets.
Yeah, McLean off the hook, kind of. He didn't pitch that bad in the final.
No, he did not.
The lineup, with the way the lineup was hitting, they needed him to be dominant, and he wasn't exactly dominant, but I mean, Skeens gave up a run too against the Dominican Republic. So, you know, everyone's allowed one, and you know, I think he did. You know, I think he did enough. You know, he did enough to put the U.S. in a position where that was where that was like a winnable game. They just really did nothing offensively until Bryce Harper's home run in the 8th inning, which I kind of made that happen, by the way, because you know, I was there and I was sitting in center field, so I doubt he heard me, but I did yell overrated, and then the very next pitch he hit that home run because that just seems to work on Bryce Harper every single time.
Why did you do that? What did your soul gain from that?
It gains the knowledge of power. The knowledge that
first off, as someone else pointed out, when he first went to look for the American flag, he found the Capital One patch, so he should have yelled, "What's in your wallet?" into the camera. That's what he was really about. Another win for me, because that means jack shit.
Yeah.
They immediately went right back and handed it.
Yeah, all in all, it was it was kind of the best outcome possible in my opinion. I mean, you know, I didn't really care who won that game, but you know, the U.S. getting that game tying home run and like making it a game and making it interesting. But then, you know, Venezuela getting it right back and, you know, getting to see their fans, getting to see their celebration and their fans' celebration. It was a cool thing to, witness. It definitely means more to them than it meant to us.
Also, I was reminded that Johan Santana is Venezuela's pitching coach, and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
To which I saw Met fans like, they'd ask me like, "You're not rooting for McClain?" I'm like, "No, I'm rooting for him not to lose." Like like I said, I didn't want him to get pegged with, "Oh well, he screwed it up." Like he didn't. After that, it's like, yeah, Johan deserved a title of some sort. He deserved one as a player. He didn't get it. Glad he got one as a coach. That's all I have to say there.
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, no, good for him. Unfortunate for the Italian Yankees coaching staff that fell short against Venezuela the night before. But
their legacy is secure.
Yeah, they've got. Was Cervelli? I don't know. I don't think Cervelli was on that 09 team.
I think he was. Only because I was reminded recently the anniversary passed where the Yankees and Rays had that big fight in spring training that I think Shelley Duncan started, and I think Cervelli had like the longest suspension out of it because like he really wanted to fight.
Okay, yeah, he was on that team. For some reason, maybe I'm mixing up the Yankees and the Yankees and the Pirates because like we had Russell Martin and Francisco Cervelli, and for some reason I thought we had Cervelli like on the team after we had Russell Martin, but no, yeah, Cervelli was the backup catcher that year. So
since he was a member of the roster in the postseason, but was not on the World Series roster. So if I remember correctly, I think you guys had Jose Molina too, which I mean teams do carry 3 catchers. So
yeah, we did. I'm looking now. He started the season in the minors. He was called up in May when Jorge Posada got hurt. And then he was like the backup. Then Jose Molina got hurt. So he was playing for a little bit. He hit a home run against the Braves in late June that year. He had a walk-off hit in the middle of September. And then he was on the postseason roster, but didn't make the World Series roster. Cervelli does have a ring. I do stand corrected.
And Okay, and I am learning this right now. He was born in Venezuela. What is anything?
Yeah. Yeah, just further proof of how kind of like how loose the requirements were for the World Baseball Classic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Cervelli's from Venezuela, but allowed to coach Team Italy. So, yeah, definitely.
During the crisis in Venezuela, Cervelli's parents moved to Colombia, and his grandparents returned to Italy. He took to social media in 2017 to voice his opposition to Nicolas Maduro. He teamed with Hernan Perez in an ongoing effort to call American attention to the issue, using techniques such as writing SOS Venezuela on his eye black. He led teammates in wearing Freedom for Venezuela t-shirts in 2019. Awkward.
Yep. Maybe he was a double agent.
Yeah. Yeah. What's Italian for double agent? Because I think I just found it.
Yeah. Yeah. Legend has it. It's pronounced Cervelli. That's the word for double agent.
Open and shut case, Johnson.
But yeah, no. Overall,
we can't let the U.S. lineup slide for getting one hit off of Eduardo Rodriguez. And if you guys pay any attention to ball, you know Eduardo Rodriguez's track record the last few years. I don't have to tell it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, having that lineup only muster one hit is it's pretty inexcusable. You're really not gonna beat anyone that way. And obviously
that bullpen was good. I don't have a problem with. Like, you didn't hit them, okay. But hitting a guy who's been one of the worst starters in the league for the last 3 or 4 years can't happen.
Yeah, and I mean, even their bullpen, it's like it wasn't all major league guys, was it? Like,
no, it was Edward Bizardo. He's on the Mariners. Jose Budo was there. Angel Zerpa's a pretty good lefty guy. I forget who Machado plays for. And Danny Palencia is the Cubs closer. So that's a pretty good bullpen. Like, I think they got two hits off them. One of them being the Bryce homer. So like, okay, like you don't hit that group. Hey, that happens a lot in the regular season with those guys. But like, Eduardo Rodriguez has been batting practice for most teams pretty much since he got to Detroit. So
the reliever, like not hitting their bullpen is one thing because it's like you're seeing them one inning at a time. So kind of hard to get a read on them, but yeah, there's plenty of tape and there's plenty of leeway to be able to hit Eduardo Rodriguez, and yeah, they just didn't do it. So yeah, there's really no excusing it. Obviously Mark DeRosa, he was already under a lot of scrutiny, before the elimination play and like the quarterfinals and semifinals started. He was under heat for seemingly not knowing that they needed that game, that they kind of needed that game against Italy, and they were lucky to get into the tournament after losing that game. But and I mean, the one thing I would say in his defense is that he can't hit for them, but I mean, there are still some questions you could have asked in that finals. Like, I don't know why Alex Bregman was starting over Gunnar Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed to be, a question at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Going into that game and still now.
There was a big thing about like, why isn't Gunnar playing second, but Bryce Terang is? And it's like, well, Bryce Terang was hitting too. Like, you can't take him out.
Yeah.
But Bregman, I get he has seniority, but take a seat.
Yeah, seniority. I really don't think seniority really gets you anywhere when you're talking about these international tournaments.
Nope.
And when you're when you're going up against the best of the best in the world, I think you kind of have to throw seniority out the window.
And I don't know if that was the reason, but it's the only other thing I could think of when Bregman was hitting sub 200 and, Gunner's hitting, I think was hitting at least 400 in all the triple slash categories. I think he might have been slugging over 600, but I know he was hitting 400 and I know he was getting on base at over 400. And he's certainly not a bum in the field either. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But the important thing I do want to ask you for the WBC, you got to be there for all 3 games in Miami. You got your first experience at Marlins Park. So first off, how was Marlins Park? And then let's just run with being in the building for 3 of the most electric games you could possibly have. And as someone pointed out on social media, if this lockout happens, you're going to hear stuff about different markets and, it's impossible for certain markets to compete. And someone's going to say, oh, well, you can't make Miami care about baseball. Well, yeah, you can. We just saw it.
You definitely can. Obviously, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that, traveled maybe from different countries or from all over America to be there to see it. But no, I think the idea that you can't make Miami care about baseball is, I think it's pretty ludicrous. I mean, when they did, obviously it was a long time ago, but when they did win their World Series, like people showed up, like, every once in a while when they make the playoffs, like people show up, and obviously the World Baseball Classic is really like, the atmosphere there is really like nothing. It's really like nothing I've ever really experienced before. It's kind of like if you had like a playoff baseball game in like almost like a college football stadium, like that type of atmosphere, just like with all like the noise and the banging, the banging of the drums and just all the all the different noises and flag wavings. It's really like nothing I've ever seen. And I've been to some pretty loud sporting events. Been to a Yankees World Series game. I've been to, quite a few playoff hockey games. But yeah, nothing quite reached the level of USA versus Dominican Republic. Just from like atmosphere and the game itself, that was like one of the best sporting events I've like ever attended, really.
It's just one of those things that every so often you hear a sporting event on TV where you're like, man, that's loud. And I'm sitting here on my couch and I know it's loud. Like I can't, like when it's shaking your speakers, and granted, I don't have my speakers up all the way, but like when it's rattling your speakers, like you're like, okay, that's something else. They were showing one from the, I think I might have mentioned on the last show, but it was the end of pool play where Soto hit that first inning home run against Venezuela. And they were like, it was the Lone Depot Park Instagram account, and it's just the raw audio. It's not the broadcast. But like as Soto hits the home run, and they just put, Juan Soto just broke the sound barrier.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, like I was in Lone Depot Park for the 23 final. I'm like, yeah, that might have even been louder than the Schwarber homer.
Oh yeah,
people will care in Miami if you can convince them that you have stable ownership that actually cares about winning. If it's, oh, okay, this isn't just going to be a 1-year flash in the pan and everyone, like, I'm actually going to get to cheer these guys for a handful of years at a time or a decade at a time and actually like grow up or age with this core together. Yeah, I'll be there. I think people are dying down there to have a team like that, to know that it isn't going to be just a moment, but it's actually going to be something that lasts. I mean, and Chris, you know this from hockey, like up until the Panthers started their run in 22, even before they got to their cup finals, but the year that they won the President's Trophy in 22, like before that, the Panthers were a joke across hockey. Like,
yeah,
one of my coworkers in my office said, yeah, I grew up down there, and I used to go to Panther games like I would get seats down by the glass for like $15, like, and that was recent. He's much younger than me, Like that's not that long ago that was the Panthers' reality.
Yeah,
it's not the reality anymore.
Yeah,
They're very legit because the ownership in the front office is like, no, we want to win and we want to keep winning. And now you see them.
Yeah,
now they're selling out Marlins Park.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see how many people are showing up to Panthers games now that not this year, but now that they've been perennial cup contenders for the last 3 years. You see you see how, and that's basically generally the same area, South Florida, and that's hockey. You think the last thing people in South Florida would care about is hockey.
And it's not just transplants showing up to the game. It's real Panther fans, that wear the gear that actually are invested in it.
Yeah,
and they really give a shit.
Yeah, they know the history too. I was at a Florida Panthers Islanders playoff game in the 2016 series, and even then, it really there were a decent amount of Islanders fans there. I wouldn't say they took over the arena or anything, but even then, the atmosphere didn't really feel like that of a playoff type of atmosphere. But yeah, the World Baseball Classic is just the World Baseball Classic is just different. Actually, I could show you. I bought a baseball from the World Baseball Classic, so I could show you what the baseball looks like if you want to see it.
I'll would
be right back.
All right, I'll buy us some time here. So, Chris was at all 3 games of the WBC, and man, it sounded great on TV. So I'm very much interested to see what that looks like, and I think this was maybe the biggest success for the WBC because I think we've had the U.S. and Japan for that was the 23 final, and then 2017 was U.S. Puerto Rico. But I think just the fact that that looks nice. That is not bad at all. I like that. But I think
it's pretty neat.
Absolutely, I'll get that encased. But I think it's something good for the WBC going forward. That when this first came to mind, obviously you think, the U.S. is going to be in the mix, the Dominican's going to be in the mix, Japan and Puerto Rico will be there, sure. And it's but Venezuela has a lot of guys in the league, and they have good guys in the league. So why can't they do this? And I think this was even before they got to the finals. I think the semis was the furthest they'd ever been. So for Venezuela to join the circle of winners and have a run like this, especially at the current moment in world history we're in, I think is pretty big. For Italy to be like, hey, yeah, we're not just here to make up the numbers. People could say what they want about the makeup of the roster and how they got there, but clearly those guys weren't just oh, well, hey, we'll just go to the World Baseball Classic for the experience. They actually they were there to compete. It clearly meant something to them. So how many other teams are looking at what Venezuela and Italy just did and thought, hey, well, why can't that be our turn?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to note, and I don't know if you saw this during the week, Chris, but apparently Manfred got asked after the final that whenever the next WBC is, you want to do it mid-season? And typical Manfred saying a lot of nothing, but this was mostly word salad. He didn't say no. He was kind of like, we'd be open to it. We'd have to plan for some things. There's logistical issues, and we'd have to clear some more time out, and kind of the thing talking about on our
what Manfred said.
Yeah, they were asked about it, and Manfred didn't outright dismiss it.
And it sounds like it sounds like he's kind of open to possibly doing it in the. It sounds like he's kind of possibly open to doing it in mid-season.
And they were kind of framing it around the All-Star break, to which, and I forget who pointed it out, but someone said he knew he was going to be asked about that, and he probably talked with people who would be at the bargaining table for this sort of thing, or who would be in the talks for this. And he said, hey, if somebody asked me about what are we doing? So he didn't say that without that being run through. That wasn't an off-the-cuff answer. He was prepared to answer that question that way, which means he's had talks. And it means that the people that he's talked to are okay, it's going to be difficult, but if people really want this, if players want this, then we'll do it. So I think that's interesting to note going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being part of the collective bargaining agreement, however they space these out, because as people have pointed out, we've kind of haven't really had a set length, because it was 2006, then 2009, then 13, then 17, then 23, and now 26. Yeah. So, if they set an agreement on let's make it every 3 or make it every 4, I think this will be a part of the next collective bargaining agreement. And I think we might have seen the last spring training one. Whereas
possible,
because I think part of it is they want guys, okay, well, if this matters to you and you care, wouldn't you rather be in season form? Rather than having to build yourself up while you're doing this, because guys are having to be monitored because, we're still in spring training. Guys are working their way back.
Not be on like limited pitch counts and stuff like that.
Right, which was part of the reason why Mason Miller wasn't in the 9th inning in the final.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that, in the building, why he didn't come in to not close out the game, but why he didn't come in that high leverage of a situation. I just kind of figured it was Miller time, but then, it obviously.
If I remember correctly, I think the Padres told DeRosa he only comes in a safe situation.
Yeah, I think same thing for Danny Palencia, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they said both managers had to have calls at like 3 a.m. with the teams.
Yeah, I think they said he can only come in if it's if you're leading in the 9th inning in a safe situation. So I mean, I don't know if that would still be like a stipulation if you were to do it in the All-Star break, but obviously people would be in midseason form. You would have probably have less worries about pitch count limits and stuff like that too. So, and it would be interesting to see, if they could come up with some sort of set schedule, because, with like the way it's been since 2006, where it's like 3 or 4 years, but there really seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. It seems like they've been on the 3-year schedule since 2017, but obviously it got.
Yeah, because I think 2020 would have been one, if not for whatever happened there.
Yeah. And
the more I think about it, like I know people will have concerns about doing it mid-season because it's, hey, well, guys are already in the middle of that, and guys are going to be hurt, and guys are, in any given season, someone could be coming back from an injury, which is true. But I also don't think that there's any sport that's really exempt from that, because when you look at the World Cup, the soccer off season's only 3 months, depending on what league you're in. So part of that is
the World Cup takes up a good chunk of that.
Yeah, you're basically ending, like this year, these guys' domestic seasons will be ending mid to late May, and then they're going right to their national team camp.
Yeah, or like,
and if you're in the final, you're playing until mid-July, and then you got a month before your next season starts. So, like, those guys are just going to keep going. When you look at the hockey guys, the high-end guys that are playing like 30 minutes a game, they're going right back into the regular season, and then they got a playoff after that. So nobody, like, everybody has to deal with this in some form. Baseball isn't the only one that has that problem.
Right. Or like with basketball, I think like the one year they did the basketball Olympics, LeBron won I think it was 2012, like LeBron won his first championship and then played for Team USA in the Olympics. And then like, that runs through like, so basically like NBA finals run till like basically the end of June. Then, then you have, Olympics start in like August and like towards like end of August.
You're gonna go right to your team camp, and then if that was the London Olympics, like I think that ended in like mid-August, and then the middle of September they go back to training camp for the NBA.
So he was pretty much. Yeah, so he was pretty much playing basketball nonstop for like a whole year. Obviously,
that's been happening with for the Magic with Franz, because he's always playing for Germany. So it's like you're going October to May, depending on how far you go in the playoffs, which I know our Knicks fans are watching. Calm down. And then he has to go right into FIBA competition or the Olympics. And that's a month to a month and a half, depending on how far they go. And then he's got like 3 weeks before he's got to go back to training camp. So I get why baseball's issue is unique because it's different for pitchers and hitters, especially so with pitchers because more gets asked of them. But any sport that wants to have best on best senior international competition, everybody deals with this. So you've got to find the solution that you can live with. If you can live with it, being in spring training and it being the way it is right now, if you think that's the best way to do it, all right. If you think if you're better off going at the All-Star break so that everybody's informed, nobody's working their way back up to it. They've already built their bodies up and you want to do it that way. All right. But there's no way that you're going to make that issue disappear. It's always going to be there. You just have to be okay with it.
Yeah. Like we said on the, like we were saying on the last episode, there's really no perfect time to do it.
Right.
But I will say that I do hope whatever they do, whether they move it to be in place of the All-Star game once every few years, or if they do keep it, in March around spring training. And, there's pros and cons to either one. I do hope that they keep it as like a once every 3 to 4 years. I think every 3 years is good. I think that's been like
I'd be all right with that.
A good schedule for them. But I do hope they keep it like as to a once every 3 years type of thing and not try to make it like an every year thing. Because I think when you do that, it kind of it starts to take away from it.
It's whenever this next one's going to be, whether it's 29 or 30, we'll be sitting around this time next year and it'll come up every so often. It's like, oh man, remember how nuts last year was? Man, I can't wait for 29. And it's going to be the same thing in 28. And it's like, man, I got to make sure I get to the next one. I can't wait. Man, who do you think's going to be on the next team? Who's going to be the big surprise? Like that's the fun of it. But if you do it every year, it's like, yeah, nice that it's there, but the luster kind of goes away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you kind of lose that. It kind of loses the juice. I think. Yeah, I think a big reason why it has as much juice as it does.
Because you got to admit, it's going to be fun for teams that have Venezuelans. Because I saw this either Thursday or Friday, but I guess McLean saw Alvarez, and for those who don't know, Francisco Alvarez is Venezuelan. He's like, yeah, he was the first person to greet me in the locker room when I got back. Kind of ruined it for me.
Of course. Like, hey!
That's going to be the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that
How
is
weird do you
pretty
think that
funny.
is for McLean that his two catchers, because Terrenz is as well, and his manager are Venezuelan. You got to be good with whatever they tell you. You're not taking anybody off.
Yeah, you just gotta. Yeah, you just gotta take it on the chin, and just kind of. He did get a little bit rattled at times, but I mean, yeah, he never really fully broke in that game. So I think you just gotta take the shit talk on the chin, and just let it motivate you, I guess, when you're in season to.
Ephus pitch on 2-0. All right, fine. Yeah, that's what we thought, buddy.
Yeah, that and like the fact that Venezuelans and their fans are they're gonna be able to like talk shit for the next like 3 or 4 years about
which they absolutely should.
Yeah, they should 100%, especially beating America, especially like after
right
what
now.
Happened. Yeah, I heard we have to give them Maduro back now. That was part of the deal.
It's written down on paper. What?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, if it's written, yeah, you can't really argue against written word.
I am 12 years old.
But yeah, a great World Baseball Classic and a great way to segue into the 2026 regular season, which does start in just a few short days. I know draft season for fantasy baseball is upon us.
Oh yeah,
you got a couple later in the evening. I got one coming up in I got one coming up in about 45 minutes here. So let's get into our 2026 season preview. Just a couple of news and notes before we fully dive in. Jorbit Vivas was sadly traded to the Washington Nationals for a 25-year-old pitching prospect, or actually a 21-year-old pitching prospect.
Yeah, that one's a little easier to stomach.
Sean Paul Lennon.
I know Kevin Lewis is going to have a lot of fun if a guy named Sean Paul makes it up to pitch for the Yankees. I know that much.
Yeah.
And he should.
Yeah.
The amount of mileage you could get out of a Sean DePaul pitching for the Bronx.
Yeah, and he don't really care what people say. But yeah, so I don't know much about Sean Paul Lennon, but from what I've read very briefly, it does sound like he does have the stuff. He had a 3.02 ERA and a 3.22 FIP across 19 outings in Single A, High A, and Triple A last year. So it sounds like he has been progressing through the system pretty quickly. And it sounds like he can, it also sounds like he has a lot of velocity too. So, pretty much like what you're looking for in a pitching prospect. It's unfortunate that I will no longer be up jorbiting my Vivas. I'll have to.
You have jorbited your last Vivas.
Yeah, I've jorbited my last Vivas, but yeah, we had to do it one more time for old time's sake.
Oh, it says here
I'll never forget that 1 week last year where he was kind of on fire and everyone was jorbiting their Vivas.
It says here that Sean DePaul's changeup has drawn comparisons to Devin Williams' airbender. So there's that.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Well, I guess fair for a Yankee fan. That's fine. I understand.
No, it's probably good. I mean, when Devin Williams is on, his changeup is pretty filthy.
That was someone that I got to see on I went last Monday night down to Port St. Lucie and saw him. They had him for the fifth inning, which was interesting.
They put him in the fifth?
Yeah, I thought that was weird because so basically Peterson threw the first four, Williams threw the fifth, and then they had Christian Scott come in for the sixth, and he pitched into the ninth, and then although I can't remember if Scott started the ninth or if he was out by that point. I know the Nationals scored a bunch in the ninth inning of that game, but it seemed like I thought that was odd because you would think Christian Scott probably will start at some point this year if somebody gets hurt. Or at least they've got designs for him because he was in the rotation when he got hurt 2 years ago. He's still highly valued. Why wouldn't you just have him immediately piggyback off Peterson and then have Williams come in and pitch late in the game like he's going to do? Although I have seen them use Diaz early on in the spring training game, so this isn't unfounded. This has been done before. Just seems a little odd.
It sounds kind of it kind of just sounds like they wanted to get a lot of guys some work in that game, maybe. It's
likely.
Particularly Christian Scott, they wanted to get him some work. So, they kind of just mixed it up a little bit. But, yeah, it's probably, probably not anything worth reading into too much. But, yeah, I'm sure it was odd seeing him come out into the game in the fifth inning nonetheless.
But everything else with the bullpen looks good. They've kind of rounded it out. Craig Kimbrell did not make the team, but they are not letting go of him, and they're not putting him on minor league assignment. They're just going to have him stay in St. Lucie I guess basically just to get to game conditioning, it seems like, just because he signed late. And I don't think they got him as much work as they, I think, wanted to get for him, which is interesting because it's just, they had unlimited room to do that. And apparently he likes being there. Like, he wants to be a part of this. It's like, oh, you guys are trying to go for this. I want to be a part of it. Again, I don't know how I feel about it. It's because we've clearly kind of seen the direction he's been trending for about 4 years now. But he didn't look terrible in spring training, so there's that. But again, I feel very uncertain about it. The rest of the bullpen, as is, not bad. Without doing too much, besides Williams and Weaver, obviously, they shored up the front end, and that seemed to be the problem last year, where it was all the Syracuse shuttle guys.
Yeah,
sometimes they were good, and sometimes they were unwatchable.
Yeah,
a little bit better this year. Hopefully, it stays that way. Knock on wood. The rotation seems to have worked itself out. They've picked their 5, and Minaya is the one who's going to piggyback. So Kodai Senga needed to have a great spring training and looks to have. His velocity, I think, maxed out at like 98.8, which is the highest it's been since he came over here. So, which, for as important as getting Freddie Peralta was and getting a full season of Nolan McLean will be to the rotation, there's still 3 to 4 guys who were part of what happened last year that are still here. And they're going to be counted on. And it's, okay, well, what do you got? Kodai Senga approaching anything like he was in 2023 would help a lot of things for this team. So,
yeah, I heard. So Senga's going to be the 5th starter, and Minaya is going to be like a piggyback. So does that mean he's like? Does that mean Minaya is going to be like the 6th starter, or is he going to kind of like?
Because they said that Minaya is going to piggyback at least through the first turn, and then they're going to go to 6, because that's how it's always been with Senga. It's just that's the rest that he works on, and they've got enough guys. Like we said, they still have Christian Scott will probably start in Syracuse. Jonah Tong has already been optioned, so there are guys that that will need that, and also a 6-man's not a bad idea when you have Holmes and Peterson, who are both coming off career highs in innings, and hey, maybe it's better to give them an extra day of rest so that you're probably going to need them to throw between 150 and 180 this year. Better to do that and allow their bodies an extra day of recovery so that they can give you those innings and they're not falling apart in August and September. So I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to get the most out of Kodai Senga, and I still think there's a good pitcher in there, why not give him every opportunity to be that pitcher? And when you were doing this in 2023, admittedly with a lesser rotation, it worked. We saw how good he could be. If you get that guy back with this team, all of a sudden the East is very winnable. So why not help him? And if you're helping him, that's certainly going to help your other starters too.
Yeah, and I think it should probably help taking a load off of Minaya as well, as he tries to like work himself back into form. I know he didn't have didn't have the best spring. So is he going to be like for the first turn through the rotation, is he going to be like a long reliever or a middle reliever, and then he's going to be like the number 6 guy like after Senga makes like his 2nd start? Is that like what the plan is?
Well, I don't know if it'll be after Senga's 2nd start, because part of it is also that early on you do get a lot of built-in off days, because
there's the off day between opening day and game 2, and then there's a lot of like, and they're going to be like there's a lot of traveling early in the season.
And plus, you're still going to have snow outs, and you even have like spring rain outs. Like those just happen.
Yeah,
so
they really should.
Why not take advantage of that now?
Yeah, they really should just like if you're going to start the season at this time of year, like late March, you really should just kind of. try to get like all the like all the Northeast teams, and maybe this is just being biased as like a Northeasterner, but I feel like you should just have the Northeast teams like get all like their like games down south and their West Coast games like out of the way early, so that you don't have to worry about like, you know, having opening day like rained out, where, you know, people, you know, where it's like everyone buys tickets to opening day and then you have a rain out, you know, people took off from work, and, you know, and then you either have to refund tickets or, you know, let them.
And then you might not have a full stadium for your actual
game. Like, you know, like just like let them open on the road for a few weeks, kind of get that shitty part of the schedule that, you know, none of the players like out of the way. And then you can kind of go back to like, you know, you kind of go back to normal operations, like without interruption, like, you know, come like April 20th or whenever, like once the weather breaks. I promise I didn't pick that date for any reason in particular.
Now, why is that? No, but I don't think I would say you're not alone on that opinion at all. I think a lot of people have been to the idea of like, well, if it's going to be this cold early, and it historically almost always is, like, you know, I feel like every team that's on the East Coast, like everybody dreads the West Coast trip at some point during the season anyway. Like, why not knock it out when it makes sense? Like, or get your Florida games out of it. Like, you know, if the Yankees want to knock out their Tampa trips,
it's like you're already down there.
If the Mets want to never play another September game in Miami, I would love that. Yeah. I would love that so much.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Take care of those. Get your West Coast games done early. Like, yeah, I don't think anybody would hate. Or even like for Colorado. Like, Colorado would probably, you know, they have to deal with that too. I'm sure they would like to travel around. You know, if you got to go to Texas, go to Houston, do those. I don't think they would be against it.
Yeah, and like so many of the teams, you know, like half the teams start their, you know, are in Florida already for spring training. So and then like the other half are in like Arizona. So like I feel like the logistics, like have the, you know, like have those teams in the Cactus League, just have them open up like on the West Coast, and have the, you know, I'm sure this is all easier said than done. And then just have all the, you know, grapefruit teams kind of stay down in that area, and you know, just kind of I'm sure there's a way to do that and balance out the schedule where you know, it wouldn't really like fuck things up too much.
Speaking of the Cactus League, I did have this in the Discord this week. Did you see some of the food ideas that Arizona's going to have this year?
I saw that crazy fucking like milkshake thing they have.
Well, they have two. Actually,
you crazy milkshakes.
Yeah, let me pull this up because I had to tell this to Stefan, and here we go. I'm pulling this up. So the
God's
original
favorite state, he says.
What?
God's favorite state, he says.
Yep.
Must be two different gods.
Yeah, who? I am getting this text now from God, and he says, "Who is we?" Anyway, the original D-back shake is the Take Me Out to the Ball Game shake, which is a salted caramel shake with whipped cream, peanut butter sandwich cookies, Kit Kat bars, and Cracker Jacks. And the two best tweets I saw to this was just call it Take Me Out to the Bathroom. The other one was, this sumbitch just melting all over you on a July afternoon.
Yeah. I think I went into diabetic shock mid-episode, hearing all those ingredients.
And then, but they also have one on the other end of the spectrum, and it's called a Healthy People Like Baseball 2 Parfait. Cottage cheese with carrot sticks, celery, salted almonds, and crunchy pretzels. Someone just put, I'm going to be sick. 16 ounces of cottage cheese in the Arizona summer may as well be a chemical weapon.
Yeah.
I know Stefan said they're indoors and it's air conditioned, but still.
I was going to say, at least it's indoors and that they have air conditioning, because like eating that in the 100-degree sun sounds terrible, even if it is a healthy, a healthy option.
It's not going to be sounding like the Seinfeld theme.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom.
See, now you're thinking it.
Yep. I'll have to get the Chase Field one of these days, one of these years. I don't know if I'll try either of those milkshakes. If they have any cool food items that are a little more practical, I'd probably be more open to that.
Have you been to Chase Field?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It's on the list, but it's like when we plan out these trips, we try to knock out like a few stadiums at a time. And Arizona is just kind of one of those places where it's like, it's weird because there's like nothing really, because it's like far enough away from like California that you can't exactly bundle it with a California trip.
That's true.
It's kind of like very isolated from like other MLB stadiums. So it might have to be like, it might be a situation where it has to be like its own like standalone trip.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I didn't really talk too much about Marlins Park as a ballpark. I thought as a ballpark, it was very okay. It wasn't really anything special. The bobblehead museum that they have in like center field was really cool. That might be
I'm a big fan.
That might be the coolest part of the whole ballpark is the bobblehead museum. But overall it was fine. The food options are pretty average. Sight lines and everything like that, pretty good. And nothing about it that really like blew me away.
I don't know if they had it for you guys. I know they have it for Marlins games where, and I'm not really a big QR code guy, but I do appreciate that they have an option for you where it's scan this, we'll give you this menu, and we'll bring you the food, or like we'll alert you, like, hey, yeah, we got your food. You ordered from this vendor, it's ready to go, so that you're not spending 2 innings in line. Like I respect that.
Yeah,
I kind of think that's something that more venues could pick up on.
If they did have that, I wasn't aware of it. Because for the first 2 games, we were in we got like standing room seats, so I'm not sure exactly how that would work. We did go to that little bar like in left field.
The Clevelander, or at least it used to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's called that anymore, but there's like this bar in left field that I guess it's like right by the bullpen, and it's kind of a, and it's kind of a, I guess it's part of like where you're allowed to go if you have like the standing room admission.
So it's got the club vibe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That used to be the Clevelander then.
The artist
got rid of that partnership.
Yeah, the artist formerly known as the Clevelander, and we got to watch Aaron Nola warm up for Team Italy, so that was pretty cool.
Sick.
But yeah, I would say it's a very overall very 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 middle of the pack very middle of the pack ballpark, I would say.
Okay. So you finally got to see the statue.
Yep, it was outside. He didn't take it away. He just put it somewhere else.
But tell me it wouldn't have looked cool as hell after one of those home runs to just see that thing.
Oh, yeah, that would have been nuts. Like, particularly after Junior Caminero hit the home run for the Dominican Republic in the USA semifinal game, how loud that crowd was, and to see that thing like lighting up, that would have been nuts.
One of the cooler moments I've had in that park was I went in 2016, and Giancarlo Stanton hit one off Jacob deGrom, and got to see that thing in action. But it was one of those home runs where Cespedes was playing left field and he just did this. He didn't even jog. It was just.
Wow. I remember the one. I think it was in Citi Field, or Judge hit one where he just didn't even move. I don't think he even turned to look. He just stood there as the ball like went into like the upper deck of Citi Field.
Yeah, that was, and also that game was DeGrom versus Jose Fernandez. It was yeah, 2 months before.
2 months before what happened.
Yeah, I still think about that. But
yeah,
it's so weird to have gone through that, and it's like it just tells you the vibe of this U.S. team. That I know we're moving into the season portion now, but for there to be Mets on that team, I know Clay Holmes had already gone back by the final, but just the way that they conducted themselves, that it was like, yeah, I'm okay with Venezuela winning this. I'm not like even when I went in 23, I was like I was thankful I watched Ohtani versus Trout, and I thought like that was a cool moment and that was a great ending.
Yeah,
there was a part of me that's like, man, what if Trout had gone? Like that would have been like
insane.
Like that would have been the coolest baseball moment of the 21st. Oh man. I mean, that was still cool, but man, could you imagine?
But we were kind of that was cool, but we were kind of robbed. I also feel like, just really put a bow on World Baseball Classic. I feel like Tariq Skubal, I know he's been getting some shit, but I feel like he's not nearly getting enough shit for leaving the team and then driving all the way back to Miami like the day of the final, seemingly because he wanted to be there to party with his teammates after they won. And then, he comes back and then they lose.
Yeah, he was going to try to have that Klay Thompson got an A on the group project moment, but didn't happen. I'd still sign him, to be clear. But that's got my radar up. I'm like, why did you do that? And before we start our season previews, and we'll touch on this over the next couple episodes as we're getting into the groove, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a tip of the cap, and it'll be a victory lap all year for Howie Rose. He's been the radio voice of the Mets for over 30 years, announcing that this will be his last season, and it's one of those things. I told my friend Jesse this, who's a fellow Met fan, and he's a Ranger fan. So I feel like both Ranger and Islander fans of both teams can appreciate this because he's called both teams. He's beloved by both hockey teams in New York. So just beloved by everybody because, one, he's great. He's great at what he does. But two, grew up in it. And I think that's something that you see for the best guys in the job. Like Vin Scully grew up in Brooklyn, grew up a Dodger fan. And Vin Scully was the pro of pros, so he would have been great wherever he was. But for someone who grew up in New York baseball, lived it, went to the games, it's the old stories about, kids arguing who the best player in New York was. Like he was one of them. Howie Rose was one of us, and just happened. Same reason that Gary Cohen is beloved is he's great, but he also can tell you about every single moment in Met history because there's a 50-50 chance he was at that game. Just as a fan.
Yeah, he just lived it. He did a great job, obviously. Obviously, he's done a great job as the Mets, play-by-play radio announcer for the past, what has it been, 40-something years he's been doing that?
So he's been, I know he was a studio guy before 95, but he's been play-by-play since 95. But he's been in the Mets cinematic universe, if you will, since the late 80s.
Yeah.
Gary Cohen. I believe Gary Cohen joined the radio team with Bob Murphy in 89.
Yeah. So basically 40 years that he's been, whether behind the scenes or, in front of a camera or behind a microphone, he's been involved at the Mets, involved in baseball for the last 40 years. And, he obviously that also poured into hockey. I know he was the Rangers play-by-play guy. I want to say in the early 90s up until I'm not really sure the exact timelines because I think Sam Rosen was the Rangers play-by-play guy by the time they won in 94. But I think
So Sam was on TV and Howie had moved to radio because, you hear Howie's call every playoffs of Matto. That's him. But he was on, I think the Rangers were on WFAN at that point. So he was on the radio and Sam was on TV. Speaking of which,
okay.
Mets, if you saw what the Rangers did to Sam Rosen last year, don't you fucking dare. Don't even try that. We're begging you.
Yeah. I'm not saying you got to win the World Series or anything, but
don't send him out sad.
Yeah, you definitely got to. Yeah, you definitely got to do. You definitely got to do a little better than that. And the Rangers still have not quite recovered.
People have talked about a lot of his calls, and they're earned, and he's great. One of the things that'll stick with me forever, and I actually have seen this going around social media since the announcement. If you look a little bit, you'll find it. But as the top of the ninth inning was unfolding in Los Angeles in Game 6 in 2024, where it was apparent, all right, this is it. Howie Rose basically spent that ninth inning basically being like, hey, yeah, if you're emotionally invested, I get it. Tonight's not going to be fun. Like, this is not going to feel good for a day or two. I understand. And he said, but after about 2 days, the sting of this will wear off. And in about a week, you'll think about this team and you won't be able to wipe the smile off your face because you'll remember how fun. Like, here's the end of the hardest moments of the year is there's nothing worse than knowing that this is the end because you're just like, all right, we're not going to just end it. Like, I don't want to be in this pain anymore. And he got everybody through it where it's like, hey, yeah, man, like this is what you sign up to have seasons like this. Like this, you'll remember the big things, but you'll remember the little moments. And he goes, I'm about to be 70 years old. He's like, oh no. He said, I was 15 years old when they won in 1969. So you can do the math. He goes, yeah. But this 2024 team made this 70-something-year-old feel 15 again. And it was like I heard that the next day because I didn't hear it that night, but it was like, and I was still in that mode of like, damn it, it's over. I was genuinely depressed, and it's like that kind of helped pull me out. It's like because deep down, yeah, I'm like, yeah, right now I don't feel good, but in a week I'll be okay, and I'll be happier thinking about this. I'll think more about the first 6 months than I will the ending, and he was right, and I think that whenever Howie's no longer with us, I think that monologue might be his legacy more than any one call because it kind of encapsulates being a fan of a team that doesn't win it all the time. Like having seasons like that's the point. That's what you hope for is to have something like that. And I think he eulogized that better than I think anybody else who could have been in that spot could have because he grew up in it. He understood this is going to be special to a lot of people forever, regardless of how it ended. And that's, I told my friend Jesse, it's like, it won't be bad when it's a new partnership because he's with Keith Rad right now. And Keith's probably going to be the guy that takes over for Howie. It'll be weird for a little bit, whoever the new team is. Yeah. You'll get used to it because it's like, it was Howie and Josh Lewin for a while. And I was very sad when Josh Lewin left because he was really good. And then Wayne Randazzo grew on me. And it's like, and then Wayne left to go do TV for the Angels. It's like, oh, man, they had a good booth. And it took me a little while to get used to Keith Rad. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, he's going to get the keys to the car now. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure you can relate to this with John Sterling because, he's just always been there. You don't know anything else.
Right. Yeah. With John Sterling and even Howie, in his own right, with the Islanders, because, I feel very lucky. Not all the teams I root for are very good. But all the teams I root for have great, play-by-play announcers or color commentators. Honestly, I think out of all the teams I root for, Michael Kay might be the worst announcer of all the teams I root for. But with the Jets, it's like we've had Bob Wischusen for 20 years as our radio guy. And, now you get to see, the whole world gets to see how good he is at what he does because he does national NHL games for ESPN. He does some big college football games for ESPN too. So everyone kind of gets to see like how great he is, and it's like, oh yeah, like I get to like, not that I listen to Jet games on the radio, but like, when something exciting happens and you see the clip of it like on social media, it's with the Bob Wischusen call. Or like with John Sterling, we went from John Sterling to, because with John Sterling it was kind of weird because like he retired like kind of on the drop of a dime in the 2024 season.
Yeah.
Like he was a month into it and he was like, all right, like fuck this, I'm done. And then he of course comes back for that playoff run, and he calls all the playoff games. And then like he officially gets replaced by Dave Sims, who, really I don't think they could have done like a better job of like like it's a very tall task to like find the replacement for a guy like that, even if he was like kind of over the hill for a little while at that point, because obviously towards the end of his career he was like calling fly balls at the warning track home runs and
standing on first base. What did I miss?
Yeah, there was a lot of that towards the end, but Dave Sims, when he started last year, he kind of made that transition kind of seamless. Or even with Howie himself, because I mean, as long as I watched the Islanders, I think Howie was doing Islanders play-by-play since like the late 90s. So, even with the Islanders, like he was their play-by-play guy up until 2016. And that's when he kind of that's when he stepped down from doing the Islander games and stepped down from his MSG role and was just like fully, he was just fully invested in the Mets at that point. But even then, like we go from Howie Rose to Brendan Burke. So that's like a pretty, that was a pretty seamless transition. And, I kind of like Brendan Burke better than Howie, to be honest.
No, I mean, there's a reason Brendan Burke is like number 2 at TNT for hockey behind Kenny Albert. And whenever Kenny Albert started, it's going to be his gig.
I always worry that eventually, like, because we kind of lose enough, like, local games when he's doing, like, national games for TNT. So I'm, like, kind of worried that it's, like, inevitable that eventually he's going to get, like, fully poached from us. So I'm just, like, kind of enjoying him, like, while he's still here. But yeah, like there's always someone who kind of comes in and makes the transition a little seamless, but it doesn't take away from like how great that person was at what they did. And, I think that can definitely be said for Howie Rose. And I mean, I've only seen the David Wright Mets retirement ceremony. I'm sure you've seen many others. So you could probably attest to it better, but I thought he did a fantastic job with the whole David Wright ceremony.
They have
encapsulating him.
He said, I think it might have been a day or two after he made his announcement, that the Mets have already asked him if he can keep being the host for the opening day ceremony when, everybody gets called one by one out of the dugout. He's done that for a long time. And, for any future number retirement ceremonies they're going to have, which kind of caught my eye because it's like, Beltran's one of the last ones. They announced that since our last show that's
they're doing that this year, right?
Yep, they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna do it during the Mets Hall of Fame weekend or if that's gonna be its own day. Yeah, they've basically said like,
they haven't announced the
we have in the future. We want you to be there, which tells you how good of a host he is.
Yeah. So he does a very good job with that too. So yeah, no, definitely. Happy retirement to him. And
it should be noted that in radio, he was on TV for a good stretch before he became the radio guy, because forever on radio, it was Gary with Bob Murphy. And Bob Murphy had been there literally since pitch 1. And then Bob Murphy passed after 2003. And I forget who was with Gary on radio, but Howie was on TV through 2005. And then when SNY started, they basically just swapped it. They had Gary come over to do TV, and Howie went to radio. But for the longest time, like there's a whole generation of Met fans that the way we view Howie and Gary, that's Bob Murphy to them. That's Ralph Kiner and even Tim McCarver to a lesser extent. So for as much as we sit here right now and go, oh man, how do you ever replace that? Who's ever going to match that? Inevitably, time time finds that person. So I'm sure for Yankee fans that, before this current era, it's like they view Phil Rizzuto that way. So it was like, man, how do you ever move on from Phil Rizzuto? Well, time finds a way. So
it sure does. One day Jerry Durney will be doing Mets play-by-play.
Listen, if they ever find some of these podcasts, they're like, you thought what about David Stearns? Well, that's not important.
Hey man,
you said what about the Phillies? I stand by it.
Damn right.
That's like, you want fans calling these games, don't you? That's how we've always been. Well, I'm here.
Yeah, you want someone. Yeah, don't you want someone with passion?
Yeah,
someone who gives a shit.
I saw yesterday. It's like, I guess Twitter's had its 20-year anniversary.
Yeah,
I don't want to call it X now because this ain't Twitter. But like, what's your favorite one? Someone's like, man, if I was a local sports announcer, I'd be saying things about the opposition like, these are evil people. They are not good. I'm like, this is why you can't let me call Met games, because that'd be me.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though I think every team broadcast has its its own little bit of homerism. I guess you can't just straight up call the other team a bunch of terrorists. I guess that's frowned upon.
If we were playing the Braves, I actually could do the Marcelo Ozuna thing with or the Bob Uecker thing with Marcelo Ozuna.
Yeah,
that'll bring up Ozuna. He's a convicted felon.
Ozuna from the Braves. Yeah, just any chance you get to mention his DUI, you'll take it. Which I'm happy to say that I've once again purchased the ballpark pass for the 2026 season for the Pirates, so I am helping pay for Ozuna's DUI and for his medical card.
And Ubers.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Yep, hopefully paying for Ubers for him in future future endeavors.
But confidence index for you as a Yankee fan, just in general, however you want, confidence in the offense, confidence in the staff, just where are you at as we were 3 days out?
Where I'm at as far as confidence index, I would say I am at I think I'm at a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. I guess we could say, I guess you could say 7.5, probably high 7, low 8 if you're doing on a decimal score. But I think the lineup is pretty well put together, especially especially with Anthony Volpe starting the season in AAA. I think
he's dead, kids.
I think the lineup is pretty well put together. If Austin Wells can carry over what he did in the WBC into the regular season, I think that would be great and would definitely, give us a nice boost. I think Ben Rice was the unluckiest hitter in baseball by a lot of metrics last year. When you compare his when you talk about his bat speed and his barrel rate and how many outs he made on hits on hit balls with insane exit velo. So I expect that some of that luck is going to swing, is going to turn into his favor. And, I thought he already had a pretty good season, but I think Ben Rice is primed for a breakout year this year. I think Jazz will, Jazz is going to do his thing. Having a 50-50 season might be, that might be a little bit lofty, but it might be a little lofty, but I appreciate the sentiment. I mean, what's he supposed to say? No, I can't do that. I think really, I think Cody Bellinger will be hot and cold, but he has a swing made for Yankee Stadium. We all know what Judge can do when the lights aren't too bright. So, yeah, my biggest concerns in our lineup right now are probably Trent Grisham, just because he's had a god-awful spring. And I think it's if there's anyone in that lineup that's like a regression candidate, I feel like it's Trent Grisham, like going from what he did last year, which was kind of like a very it was a very like late bloomer type of season for him. So like I feel like he kind of has some regression red flags. This is his age 29 season. So he is starting to approach the wrong side of 30. And then Ryan McMahon, he obviously leaves a little bit to be desired, but he at least gives you some pretty good defense at third. So yeah, I would say pretty confident that the offense is going to be able to do enough. And then I think the rotation, even with Cole starting the season on the IL, I think with Fried, Rodon, and Schlittler as your top three, and then Ryan Weathers is going to make the rotation. He throws gas. So I think you have a very solid top four of your rotation. Luis Gil has had he's had a bit of a concerning spring, although he did finish it on a pretty strong note. So it will be interesting to see what they do with that fifth spot, if they give it to Gil or if they give it to Will Warren. And then I think that I think the bullpen. I think the bullpen's going to be pretty solid. You got Doval coming back, you got Bednar coming back, so those should be like your eighth and ninth inning guys, and should have it pretty. Should be pretty. They should have that on lockdown. I was reading that. Cade Winquist might be making the opening day roster. They still have not fully decided.
That's a name.
Yeah, but I think I think that, and then you have Fernando Cruz coming back. I think you're probably going to get to a point, and you'll have Ryan Yarbrough, who, he'll probably be like your long reliever, or like if a starter gets hurt, you can definitely count on him to give you like a solid 5-inning game. And then I think, the bench, you're going to have Paul Goldschmidt on the bench kind of mentoring Ben Rice. Ahmed Rosario, who seems to be there for the vibes again, but I wouldn't be surprised if his role is like a little bit bigger than we expect. So you got those guys on the bench. JC Escara, who I've always been a fan of JC Escara. So I think he'll be a very solid backup to Austin Wells, and
you'll surprised that Dominguez got sent down.
Am I surprised he got sent down?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, because like they had already sent down Spencer Jones, which wasn't super surprising. I also kind of wish they would have. Called up Lagrange, but
I think that might happen anyway.
Yeah, I think that feels a little bit inevitable. I think at some point you're going to need another arm, and he should probably be first in line for that. I was a little surprised they sent Dominguez down, just because like he's kind of like he could just be like your fourth outfielder. You're pretty solidified with like Bellinger, Judge, and Grisham being like the everyday guys, but Dominguez, because like looking at their roster now, like it looks like Jazz is like the fourth outfielder, but he's going to be playing second every day. So, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. So I was a little surprised that they sent him down, but also not super surprised. I'll say it again. You should probably just trade him, especially since in spring training the other day, someone was like in the on deck circle taking cuts and like almost decapitated him. So maybe maybe just trade him before he gets CTE or before you really have no trade value for him.
That happened to me once when I was a kid. I tell you, not a fun time.
Yeah. One
I
time
didn't catch it in the head. I caught it on my lip. Also not fun.
Yeah, one time I was hitting baseballs in my backyard and I accidentally my little sister was walking by. I accidentally like hit her in the head with the baseball bat. That was not fun.
Was she all right?
Yeah, she was fine. Like had a little like she didn't get like a concussion or anything, or like she just kind of had like a bump on her head for like a few days. She was fine, but yeah, my pops was not happy. But yeah, so yeah, it kind of reminded me of that whole situation. But yeah, I would say you probably just need to trade him at this point if you're not going to have him on the roster.
It's probably a situation now where they probably want him to go rake at AAA and try to up his value that way. Because at this moment, if I'm a GM, they clearly don't believe in him. And the last time we saw him, his numbers were dreadful. Like, what a value am I going to give up? But if he goes out there and kills it for 3 months in AAA or 2 months, it's okay. Maybe there's a good player in there and he just needs to change the scenery and he just needs to be able to play every day without the microscope on him. Okay, I can work with that. So it might be a long-term play here, even if that long-term isn't necessarily with the Yankees.
It's possible. Maybe the best way to get his trade value back up is to see him rake in AAA, and same thing with Spencer Jones. But I was just a little bit surprised just because of there's kind of you kind of have your 3 starting outfielders on the roster, and like that's really it. Like I feel like most teams usually carry at least 4 or 5 outfielders on the roster. So yeah, it was a little surprising to see him get sent down. Especially when he's been up like on the major league team for not 3 full years, but like almost 3 years now. So to send him back down, especially when they keep they kind of just handed Anthony Volpe like the starting shortstop position, and anytime anything happens, it doesn't seem to affect anything. So it just seems like one of those situations where the leash is shorter for some guys than it is for others.
And that's where the real frustration is. It's like you're not upset with Jason Dominguez. It's why isn't everybody else getting that same energy?
Yeah. The energy is definitely it's different energy for different guys. And my fantasy baseball draft here has officially begun. So if I'm a little distracted, I do apologize.
That's fine. I didn't know if you wanted to cut short because I don't want you to have a bad season because we had to be here yapping. So this is however you want it.
No, it's all good. I can multitask for a little bit.
Where are you picking?
I am picking 9th, and we are currently at pick 7. So I'll be up in like 2 picks.
All right.
It looks like I will be. It looks like right now it's going to be either Tariq Skubal, Jose Ramirez, Crochet, Kyle Tucker, or Acuna with the first pick.
I think I lean Jose Ramirez.
Well, he just got drafted, so it won't be him.
Skubal if he's there then.
Yeah, as long as this guy in front of me doesn't take him. I think if he takes Skubal, I'm going to take Crochet.
I don't hate that. Survey says.
Or I could wait on a pitcher and possibly get either Christopher Sanchez or Logan Gilbert. But you know what? I kind of think Garrett Crochet is going to win the Cy Young this year. So.
Ooh.
I'm just
Okay.
gonna take Garrett. I'm just gonna take Garrett Crochet here.
Ooh. All right. I was gonna say, do we want to lean into that? Well, I mean, I don't know if we want to do that now, but like I know we have, for our season preview, we're looking at. I know we had our awards picks last year, so we're doing that, and then we were gonna do like one story for each team. But if you want to hit that after, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to do on the Yankees, but then we could touch on the Mets.
Yeah, no, we could touch on the Mets, and then we can get into storylines and predictions and all that.
Well, the Carson Bench question has sort of answered itself. It looks like he will be the opening day starting right fielder. He's made the roster. They are giving him number 3. And Jesse Winker, we thank you for your service.
Salute.
Still unclaimed, which I hate to say.
Damn. Could this be the end?
He's only 32, I think. Was a contributor to a playoff team 2 years ago. Somebody's got to look at, unless he's just physically cracked, which I don't know.
It's possible. I just took Acuna with my second pick.
All right.
I was considering Ketel Marte just because like second basemen are more scarce, but I don't know. Acuna is a better player.
I always try to take catchers early just because it's like once the catcher run starts, next thing you're looking around and you're like, well, it's like, oh crap! I guess I
draft Francisco Alvarez and deal with that experience again.
It's like, well, I mean, I guess Jonah Heim works, but okay.
Yeah.
And then the question after it was announced that he was going to stay on the roster, it was, okay, well, is he going to start? Because Mike Tauchman really hit well in spring training. Well, he's got a torn meniscus and he's going to need surgery. So that answered that question. So, best case, it's not a best case scenario because I would have been happy if they had kept Tauchman and used him as a DH. Like, that would have been okay. But as far as Carson Bench, like that was the hope, was hit well enough and play well enough in the spring to make them make a decision, like force their hand.
Just make it a tough decision, basically.
He did. Credit to, I mean, I'm not going to forecast anything for him. I'm not saying if he's winning Rookie of the Year or anything like that, but the fact that all eyes were on him, I mean, there even were people that were dying for him to get called up down the stretch last year. I don't know if that would have solved anything, but I think everybody was like, especially once Nimmo left, and it was, okay, Luis Robert might be a solution, but I don't think he's the long-term solution.
Right.
It was, okay, Carson, like, go prove the hype. Let's see it.
Yeah. So number one, is it Luis Robert or Luis Robert? Because I went from like when he first came up, it was Luis Robert. Then people started calling him Luis Robert, but now I hear you calling him Luis Robert again. So I don't know which one.
I started hearing after the trade that it's Robert. Now I also will cite what Jolly Olive said. I'm going to wait to hear what Gary calls him. If Gary calls him Robert, he's Luis Robert.
That'll be the ultimate, that'll be like the ultimate like litmus test, I guess. But also, is he starting the season on the IL?
He might be. I haven't seen that officially listed, but he just started playing in the last 10 days. So I got to think they want to get him up to game speed. Now, that might not be as long as it is for some other guys, but you probably want him to have a certain number of plate appearances. Like, if we're trusting you to be the everyday center fielder, we can't have you cold. We need you to be reasonably ready to go. So if he's got to stay behind in St. Lucie for 2 weeks, all right, like you can live with Tyrone Taylor being your starting center fielder for 2 weeks. That's okay.
Yeah, you could get by for a couple of weeks with Tyrone Taylor, but do you think so do you think Benj is gonna start right away? Or
I think that's answered itself because remember Soto's now in left field.
Right.
And Robert and Taylor are going to be the center field partnership. So that kind of
leaves right to him.
Yeah. Although it certainly sounds like there's days where Brett Beatty's going to be out there just because they're gonna find ways to play him. I mean, I think everybody's made that clear, and they should.
Yeah, you kind of have to find ways to. You kind of have to find ways to keep Beatty involved. You know, I don't think he's an everyday player, but I think he's someone that you want involved.
Yeah, and I mean, just the fact that he improved so much defensively at third base, where he went from not being bad at third, like he didn't have that tag coming up where it's like, yeah, you're just gonna have to live with it. It's like he's fine, but like he's never gonna be a Gold Glover at third, but like that's not why you have him. Like,
yeah, that's not
fine.
What you.
And he went from that to, wow, he really actually can play this position. Okay,
yeah,
I was expecting
and a few other positions.
Yeah, like the fact that they just threw him at second, it's like, here, figure it out, and then he did. It's like, okay, if he had to play right field, like I trust he would figure it out. I'm not saying he wouldn't expect it to be a 10-time Gold Glove winner or anything, but like, could you play him there? Yeah, you could. That's fine. So that answered itself. We've talked about the rotations kind of sorted itself. The Mark Vientos thing, apparently he's on the roster, but that has not answered itself.
Not quite. He did hit a home run yesterday, though.
And I will say that the game that I was at last Monday, and I feel like I've seen this at other games in the past 2 weeks, where he's hitting balls hard. They're just finding gloves. And that's frustrating because it's, okay, he did all the right things to hit a ball, 108 off the bat. It's like, is that really him? Or like you talked about with Ben Rice, where it's like sometimes the guy's just doing everything right most times and it's still just not falling in. That's baseball. That will happen.
Yeah.
But you also wonder if Vientos is pressing because he was already kind of behind the 8 ball coming into the spring, and then this happened. And for him, that's the kind of thing that can kind of feed on itself, where it's just like, man, I'm doing everything right and I'm still getting offers. Like, what do I got to do? And then you worry if that stretches into the regular season. And then you got a problem, because now those are real regular season outs when you're trying to win games. So Mendoza apparently is not worried. He's like, no, I've told him, you're not trying to make this roster. You're on it. You're going to play a big part. And it's like, all right, is he protecting his guy or is he serious? Because
yeah, I mean, you kind of alluded to it when you texted me that Benj made the opening day roster, and I asked how you felt about it. You said, like, this is a team that has aspirations to compete and to contend this year, so they're not giving away roster spots for free. But coddling Mark Vientos in that manner might be a little contradictory, I guess.
I would agree. It's like, yeah, you Carson Benj earned that spot on merit, and that's how it should be, especially when the goal is a World Series. At the same time, this guy went, like 5 for 35 for the spring, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's not even counting his WBC numbers, which were not great either. And it's like, they've sent other guys down, like AJ Ewing's down there. There's, there were other guys that really hit well at spring training, and it's, well, can you really afford to, thinking about like prospects, or, those veteran minor league types who might hang around if they think they've got a shot, which was what Jose Iglesias was 2 years ago. And it's like, are those guys going to want to stick around if it's, well, it doesn't matter what I do. They're just in the bag for Vientos. It doesn't matter what I do. They're going to try every single thing they have. So that'll be something. I almost wonder if we're at the stage now where Mark Vientos just needs to change of scenery, and it's, I hesitate.
You mean a change of scenery? Like,
I'm not sure it is.
Do you mean a change of scenery like in AAA, or a change of scenery like somewhere else?
Potentially somewhere else, especially if it becomes one of those things where early on this season it's like, okay, yeah, even if Bo Bichette opts out, they're not letting him leave. Like they would bring him back. Then it's okay. Well, he's got third. And if Bo Bichette's ever hurt, well, Brett Beatty's got third because we know he can play it. It's like that's definitively two guys ahead of you. I watched Vientos play first base Monday night. Not great. I think even if the Jorge Polanco experiment doesn't work out, which I'm not saying either way it will or it won't, but I think if it didn't, I'm not even sure that he would be the next option for them where it's like, oh, well, we'll just put him over there. I don't think that works.
Yeah.
Well, then what?
Yeah, it seems like there's a very limited run that he would get on the Mets roster, and that he may be better off that he may be better off trying to revitalize his career elsewhere. It is kind of crazy to think about, because I remember like in 2024, like when he was doing what he was doing, and we were trotting out DJ LeMahieu every day at third base. It was like, God, I would love to have like someone like Mark Vientos on my team. And now it's kind of like, yeah, well, where like
things work out the way they do.
Yeah, that's baseball. It'll always test you, and ball never lies. So I mean, yeah, I guess he'll be looking to. He'll be looking for whatever playing time he can get, or I'm sure the Mets can, I'm sure Stearns can find a way to get creative and find a way to flip him into something that's more valuable for the Mets in this next, in the window of the next 2 to 3 years, as far as competing goes, whether it's packaging him for a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher. But yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, there's got to be something.
But like we talked about with the rotation, I think Peralta certainly lifts this rotation. A full season of Nolan McLean will do that, and you hope that having being pushed to their physical limits last year and doing things that they'd never done before will serve Peterson and Holmes well to come back and be better pitchers this year. So it's like I've said, I feel pretty good about what Peralta and McLean will provide. And it's okay, like that. It's one thing when you get into a postseason series and it's like you can get away with having 3 starting pitchers, but in the course of 162, you need 5 or 6 to give you something. And it's okay. Are the guys who kind of led to the collapse last year, are they going to bounce back? You can only hope. And because I look at that lineup and it's, well, I know what Lindor and Soto are. I feel reasonably confident in what Jorge Polanco will be as a bat. I certainly feel good about what Bo Bichette provides. I think being part of a contending team will unlock something in Luis Robert that he's been waiting to be since 2023.
Something that hasn't been there with the White Sox.
I feel very optimistic that Carson Bench can give this team something straight out of the gate. And then with the bullpen, talking with ball-knowing Yankee fans, it seems like everybody kind of reasonably agrees on Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, where they were good before they got hurt. They tried to pitch through it. You saw those numbers. You saw what they were when they came back. Those are good relief pitchers. Kind of the story of the Mets bullpen the last couple of years has been, Edwin Diaz is really good. Can you get him the lead? And that wasn't always a lock. And, now having Brooks Raley back for another year, they should have AJ Minter back by mid-May, so they'll have 2 legitimate lefty options out of the pen. Luis Garcia was a guy that they signed, I think the same day. It was either the same day as Bichette or the same day as the Peralta trade, because it was one of those things like, if nothing else had been going on, people would have talked about it. Like, I don't think he's a needle mover, but like, I think he's going to be part of this team. And then another big thing happened and everyone just forgot about it. Certainly I think this can be a better bullpen than last year. Hopefully they don't have to use the Syracuse shuttle nearly as much as they did last year. I think that was very frustrating. Hopefully Stearns learned his lesson with that. This is the thing where it's, if 3 through 5 in the rotation can be closer to their ceiling than their floor, I think this is a team that can compete with Philly. Am I telling you outright they're going to win the East? No, that's not a guarantee. They were 11 back last year. I think they finished 5 or 6 back of the Phillies 2 years ago then they beat them in the playoffs. So there's still work to be done here. But I think I'll just say I think this will have a better ending than last year. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I would. I would feel pretty. I would feel pretty confident that it should end, or it should either end or just be a better season than last year. You had to make the changes that you did. The roster has come along full circle, and it seems like they've rounded out the roster in a way where they told you they were going to emphasize run prevention, but they've also found a way to keep the lineup dangerous and competitive. And it might be a little tough sledding at the beginning, especially since Lindor. I think is Lindor. He's not starting opening day, right? Like he's going to miss at least a couple games.
The last I heard was that he wasn't going to be committed to starting on opening day, but
that is a possibility.
He's been playing for the last week, so I can't say he's definitively not playing, but it looks better than it did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I would be pretty confident if I were a Mets fan. How do you feel? I mean, we kind of talked about I think the rotation should be a little better. You probably might want like 1 or 2 more arms there. And I think the bullpen will probably be a lot better than it was last year. So I think there's definitely reason to be optimistic. So as we're talking here today on March 22nd, how many wins do you think the Mets? How many wins do you think the Mets finish the 2026 regular season with?
As we sit here right now, I would probably say somewhere between 87 and 91. I think is probably a realistic goal.
All right. Yeah, they're I believe their over under for win total is I believe it's right around I believe it's at 90.5. And I would say that so I would say somewhere in that ballpark definitely sounds definitely sounds reasonable and attainable. As assuming you get somewhat normal somewhat normal health, that you don't get decimated by injuries. I think that.
Well, you never know. I could go. That's never a given in any season with the Mets.
Yeah. But I think I would go like slightly over on that. I think I'd go with like 91 or 92 wins. I'll say 92 wins for the Mets. And I believe the Yankees have the same over under of 90.5 for a win total this year. What do you think there? Do you think they go over that number, or do you think they go under?
You said they're also at 90.5?
Yes.
I'll put them at 92 to 94.
Yeah, they won 94 last year. And that was kind of an overachievement. So, I think that there could be a little bit of regression to the mean, but, I think I'm going to say they win. I think I'm going to say they win exactly 90 games.
Ooh, even with Cole coming back.
Yeah, even with Cole coming back, I think
Wow.
Because even when Cole comes back, you don't really know. You don't really know how he's going to be. I mean, he looked great in that spring training game the other day, but a full season, you don't know. And I expect him to come back pretty strong. I just think that the teams around the Yankees made a lot of improvements, and the Yankees, the main improvements that the Yankees are basically bringing back the same team plus Cole whenever we get him back. So I think, I think that, we're maybe a couple of wins less than we were before. But, I think it'll still be enough I don't know if it'll be enough to win the division. I believe we're favored to win the division, at least slightly. But, I think the Blue Jays right now, I think the Blue Jays probably take the division. We probably take a wild card spot. And, ultimately it's going to be determined by, ultimately the narratives and how this season goes will be determined by, as always, what we do when October rolls around.
This is, as they said in The Godfather, this is the business we chose.